SEC Network Basketball presented by Regions Bank. Another full house here at Colonial Life Arena in Columbia. The defending national champions back on their home floor. Now ranked 4th in the country, South Carolina taking on Florida. Eric Freed, Christy Thomas-Scuddy, great to be with you here courtside. Well, we knew no one was going to be perfect in the SEC this season. The top of the conference is just so tough. South Carolina lost to Texas last time out. Now the question is, how will they bounce back after that first conference loss?
Well, I think that's what every head coach always will say to their team. It's not if you lose, it's what the response will be that'll dictate how successful you can be. And when you've got one of the best freshmen in the country, I got to believe Dawn Staley feels fairly confident her team's ready to bounce back. That
freshman is Joyce Edwards, who's having a fantastic freshman campaign.
Dawn Staley's saying that Joyce Edwards is better than Asia Wilson at this point in her career. The freshman has high ball IQ, great hands, has a physicality, and just wants to be great. Eric, the true mark of a champion is, can you elevate your game when your team needs you most? And Joyce Edwards has not only increased her point production by 5 points since Ashlyn Watkins went out, but she's shooting more efficiently as well. And for the Gators, they're led by another freshman. Liv McGill can slice and dice in the full court and in the half court. The key for Florida is the transition game, and that's why Liv McGill is so important, because when Florida is at their best, they're not having to set up in the half court. They're scoring early, they're scoring often in the transition fast break.
McGill leading Florida in scoring and in assists. The Gators coming off a loss to Alabama last Thursday, so they've had some time to get some work in preparing for this matchup inside Colonial Life Arena. But I don't know if there's really a way you prepare for this before the opening tip. Floyd Kitts, Rashae Kyle with the opening tap, and it's controlled by Florida. Play for K-9 here in South Carolina, so Florida has their road pink on in South Carolina. Plenty of pink accents around their home white.
And you're seeing South Carolina starting their player-to-player defense.
Layla Reynolds to the basket, rebounded by Chloe Kitts, leading the team in rebounding at 7.5 a game. Joined in the starting 5 by Te-Hina Paopao, Sanaya Fagan, Bree Hall. Raven Johnson is the SEC leader in assist-to-turnover ratio. Paopao. Shut off. Back out to Hall. 8 to shoot. Hall. Like she may have stumbled a bit, but they play on. And a second chance here for South Carolina, and Johnson will bring it back out.
A couple of keys for the Florida defense tonight. They've got to defend the paint. South Carolina 5th in the nation in paint points. They've got to keep South Carolina off the glass, and their transition defense has to be on point.
Fagan has to launch with the shot clock winding down, and here's another offensive rebound, a second chance again. Paopao makes Florida pay. Have to be good on the defensive glass, the Gators do. And here's a look at their starting 5. McGill, as we mentioned, Kyle's in the post, Jariah Warren, Layla Reynolds, and Alexa DeZecco.
And when we talk about transition defense, it's not about just running to the paint. It's about stopping ball. That time Florida did well, but didn't get deep enough to slow it down.
Kitts inside for 2, averaging 9.5 points a game, went for 9 points, 4 rebounds in 24 minutes in Austin on Sunday. Here is McGill, defended by Raven Johnson. McGill is so good going to her left, but a little too strong there. And now look at South Carolina. This is what they'll do. They'll run right back at you. And Paopao off the window, and a great start for South Carolina. And an early timeout for Kelly Rae Finley. If there was any concern after the loss to Texas, I think the fans, I see some smiles in the crowd. They're feeling good about things here in the early going. We'll take the timeout as well. Welcome back to the 45th meeting all-time between South Carolina and Florida. South Carolina has won 16 in a row in the series, and they're off to a great start. 7-0 run, Christy, to start the game.
Well, head coach Kelly Rae Finley of Florida said to her team, we've got to be good in transition defense. That means you've got to get matched up and be in the vision of passers. It's way too easy for Kelly Kitts to get that steal out of transition. And then Paopao just surveying, slicing, dicing, getting the easy 2 in transition for the Gamecocks.
Good start for Paopao. She's got 5 points. She was in foul trouble early at Texas. 2 fouls in the first 4 minutes. Was held to 6 points in that game. South Carolina with 7 points. None for Florida. South Carolina with 5 rebounds. None for Florida. And one thing to watch here out of this Florida timeout, their shot selection. That's got to be paramount here today, because if you're going to force something up, you miss, and you're not going to get the rebound. You know South Carolina can get down the floor in a heartbeat.
Well, and that's the key to transition defense, is that your teammates know when a shot goes up. They can't be surprised, because there's no way they can get back and get solid on the defensive end to slow this Gamecock offense.
Warren will try it from outside and knock down a 3. So good job by Jariah Warren. Her 45th made 3 of the season. That leads the team.
And Warren doesn't shoot as much as like Salgas, who's on the floor, number 6. But I feel like she's been one of the more efficient three-point shooters for Florida this season.
Sanaya Fagan on the baseline. Fagan's another one who had early foul trouble. That seemed to be a theme against Texas. I'm not trying to scratch a scab here for South Carolina fans, but they were whistled for a season-high 20 fouls in that game. There's McGill to the bucket for 2.
And you see Kyle playing off Fagan. This is where Fagan is so good in terms of seeing the floor and dictating the offense.
Fagan from Paopao for 2. South Carolina's made their last 5 field goal attempts. Here's Reynolds through the hands of Salgas. Tracks it down before it heads out of bounds.
And you're seeing Florida in this dribble drive offense, just trying to let their young players create off the bounce.
Extra pass, wide open 3, much better from Florida. Salgas knocks it down. Kenza, the grad student from France, in her 2nd season with the Gators, her 31st made 3 this year.
Kelly Rae Finley has to be pleased with how her team has responded out of that timeout.
Lazy pass, Johnson. Warren was there to knock it away, but good hustle by Johnson to get it back.
The shot clock did not reset.
Some experience on that South Carolina bench, and the shot clock reset. Now the officials are going to stop play here to see where the shot clock should be. So Kelly Rae Finley, I tried my best to suggest the name Eric for her boy to be born in April.
But partner, she shot you down quick.
Oh my gosh, it turns out Grandpa to be is named Eric, so I never had a chance. But Kelly Rae looking good, feeling good, and hoping that her team can hang with Dawn Staley's club. Dawn now in her 17th season, 70 consecutive wins on their home floor. So one long streak ended by Texas. That was 57 consecutive regular season wins in the SEC, but they still got that home winning streak that they'd like to extend to 71 before a certain matchup coming on Sunday against Connecticut. Foul on Florida.
You just saw a post-to-post screen on the ball, and that's one thing with Fagan and Kitts. They do so well, put so much pressure on a defense. It's something to watch as this game progresses. Can Kyle get out and defend around the perimeter off the bounce?
Kyle's first foul. Paopao will try a deep 3. Already more points than she had against Texas. This is a South Carolina team that was 5 of 19 on 3s against the Longhorns. Bree Hall with the rebound. Reynolds trying to slow her down.
And it's subtle, but Reynolds picking up balls slowed that transition enough, because Paopao was open on the wing there initially.
Fagan found Hall, couldn't find the basket. Kitts gets another rebound. That's Raven Johnson inside. More offensive rebounds, more second chance opportunities, and another conversion for South Carolina. Up by 9. Fagan gets called for the foul on Kyle. So the rebounding numbers, 8-0 in favor of South Carolina. Already 4 offensive boards for the Gamecocks.
Well, Chloe Kitts already has 3 offensive rebounds herself. Raven Johnson, though, the point guard, getting on the glass, kicking it out to Paopao. Paopao's 2 threes already in this game are coming on second chance opportunities.
Mylasia Fulwiley into the game for South Carolina, along with Tessa Johnson and Joyce Edwards. Christy talked about her right at the top of the telecast. She comes off the bench, and she's guarding Alexia Gassett, who's on the floor for the first time for Florida.
3-second call against Florida there.
I think a necklace for Gassett. I think it was pointed out by the South Carolina bench just to make sure Gassett doesn't have any jewelry on. The official just stops play, make sure it gets taken care of, and Kelly Ray Finley has an assistant for that to handle all precious metals.
It's a nice necklace. No one wanted it to get broke.
Here's Fulwiley.
ISO for her to go one-on-one from the elbow.
Little shake and bake, won't drop. Edwards knocked it out of bounds, and it's Florida basketball. Fulwiley had 13 points, 3 assists, no turnovers, 3 steals. She was certainly a bright spot for South Carolina against Texas. I wanted to see what your thoughts were of South Carolina, because we saw Texas against Vanderbilt in the game before, and you just had that feeling. Texas was ready to play, tie up, we'll give it to South Carolina. Texas was focused. They were building to that South Carolina moment. They had a great crowd. They had great energy. And South Carolina didn't play their best, yet they had a shot to tie it in the final seconds of the game.
I go back to the meeting here in January where both teams sped one another up. The way it translated for South Carolina was turnovers. The way it translated for Texas was a lot of missed gimmies. You go to Austin. Both teams know one another, but Texas's defense truly disrupted the Gamecocks offense. That's why the first couple of possessions, already the pace and tempo, the ball reversal has already been better than what we saw on Sunday.
Kitts gets called with a foul on McGill, and that will send the freshman to the free throw line. 66-62 was the final. South Carolina never led in that game, and they were cold on the floor in the fourth. 4 for 15 in the fourth quarter for South Carolina. McGill with another one coming. Women's hoop triple header on Sunday. Starts with a good one. Interesting one at noon. We'll be there in Knoxville. It's Tennessee playing Auburn tonight, and Ole Miss, who's playing Arkansas. You talk about two teams with contrasting styles to start our big day of college hoop on the SEC Network on Sunday.
Both teams, though, have one major part in common, and that's they want to turn one another over.
They just have different ways to get there.
Exactly. And one team relies on the three-pointer a lot more than the other.
Impressive win for Ole Miss Monday night in Oxford over Kentucky. Come from behind effort. Their first come from behind win when trailing at halftime this year. Foul will send South Carolina to the free throw line. Schema Walker will come into the game for Chloe Kitts.
And Eric, I want to talk about Edwards' footwork. She caught that ball, reverse pivoted, and exploded with a rip. You just don't see a lot of young players at her size able to do that already in their career.
What you just said was too much to fit into her bio blast, but you get the point. You're just adding info and value to one of the most valuable recruits for Dawn Staley in her time at South Carolina.
It was remarkable just to hear Dawn talk about this young lady today, talking about how, because I said, I heard on a broadcast that you had said that she's already better than Asia. And she said, yeah, she is, because she's got better practice habits. And she's got better study habits.
Whoa. Back up. Asia's freshman year.
Freshman year, yes.
Well,
freshman. Sorry, Asia. But as a freshman.
Asia just grabbed her phone and just like furiously texting. There's Fulwiley with the finish back the other way for South Carolina. 10-1 run for the Gamecocks, and a traveling violation. Turnover by Florida will give it back to Carolina.
Transition defense has to be the top when you are going against South Carolina. You got to stop ball because they're too good at passing and finding one another. It is that quick that they can turn defense into offense.
What I loved about that play, Fulwiley was in the corner, the far corner, 94 feet. She was as far away from the hoop as you could be, and Paopao knew that she was going to be on her wing and then up ahead of her before too long. South Carolina's just locked in right from the opening tip. 7 straight points. They're on top by 15, and here comes Fulwiley looking for a little bit more.
And another turnover by Fulwiley nonetheless.
Fulwiley launches the 3. Another offensive rebound. It's Johnson on the glass. 7 minutes into the quarter, and South Carolina has scored 26 points. Johnson can't add to it. Here's McGill, a couple of flashy players going head-to-head, and McGill drops the dime to Kyle.
Her court vision is truly remarkable. We talk about how she's averaging 5.5 assists a game, but it's the assists that she's making. They're not easy. They're not like lateral pass. She is finding her teammates and setting them up to score.
Johnson looks for Walker, knocked away by Warren, and here is McGill back the other way, leans in, too strong. She'll go to the line, the foul on Johnson.
Well, Florida switched up the defenses, and then the extra pass by South Carolina, Raven Johnson wide open, and then we've seen this time and time again in the last 2 years. Malaysia Fulwiley getting out in transition.
Pick your guard for South Carolina that could get in transition and finish in transition. Johnson and Fulwiley.
We got Raven. We got Fulwiley. We've got Tessa. We've got Paopao. We got Maddie McDaniel, who we haven't seen yet here tonight as well.
McGill went for a team-high 22 and added 6 assists against Alabama last Thursday. That was a game. Florida has had a lot of moments this year, Christy, where they've been in the fight for a long time, and then you look up, and at the end, well, they lost that game by 18. It's just trying to stretch out those good moments for Kelly Rae Finley to last longer and longer as the game goes along.
Well, I attribute it to youth. I thought they played so hard against Alabama. They just couldn't make the shot that they needed to at crunch times. And Alabama, Aaliyah Nye went off from deep. And then they just will play hard, but the talk is not always there on defense. And so there's a breakdown here, a breakdown there, allowing easy scoring opportunities for their opponent.
Edwards to the basket for 2. Miara O'Neal, the freshman, is on the floor now for Florida. Good shooter. Reynolds with the floater, short. Raven Johnson with the rebound. Head up, thrown up to Fulwiley. Fulwiley inside Edwards. Good block by Gassett, but sticking in with it is Edwards.
If you're South Carolina, you've got to be pleased because they're not consistently making first shots, but they are working to get position, working to get the second chance opportunities.
O'Neal off the mark, tap to Fulwiley, and look who's running. It's Edwards. Couldn't get the finish, but she was fouled. And a trip to the free throw line coming for Joyce Edwards. That's one thing. We just joked a moment ago about the guards getting up the floor quickly. The bigs can get to the basket quickly for South Carolina.
But Edwards uses her body so well to protect. Long first step, explosive. And Eric, this is something we're seeing consistently the last couple of games is the rim running of Joyce Edwards. This time it's going to lead her and allow her to get to the free throw line.
Fulwiley to the bench. We asked Dawn Staley today, which player, if you could pick one, has just scratched the surface, has the farthest to go between where she is now and her ceiling? And the answer was Joyce Edwards, which is frightening when you think about how polished she already looks as a freshman.
Coaches everywhere, that was Eric Freed's PSA to you of look out for Joyce Edwards.
I'm here to help. I'm just trying to let you know, but... And Dawn referenced that she does everything well, not just in a basketball sense, in a life sense. And the joy that she brings to the game is something that Dawn loves as well. There's Hall on the run. What a quarter for South Carolina. Everyone's had a hand in this big lead. Final minute, they've got 34 points on the board.
Well, it's when South Carolina's at their best, everyone does have their hand in the pot. They're all making plays in a different manner.
They'll stay with Florida with 16 on the shot clock. Erin Kindred is back on the floor, by the way, for the first time for Florida. We're not even at the end of the quarter yet, and South Carolina has already set a season high for points scored in any quarter this season, and they can add to it. Here's Johnson. It's Edwards running to the rim again.
It's important 13 seconds for Florida. Get a good shot.
And let that game clock wind down so South Carolina doesn't have a chance to get any more points. Dzeko comes through with a good shot. That ends the run for South Carolina, but 36-15 after one here in Columbia.
You mentioned the most points by South Carolina. Joyce Edwards already with 10 in the corner, rim running at its best. Welcome back to Colonial Life, where if there's any question about how South Carolina will respond, Te-Hina Paopao, the senior, said, "I got this, coach." She started off in transition, slicing and dicing when the defense wasn't set, and then off of offensive rebounds has consistently relocated to present herself for good looks. Transition 3, the pull-up, and then once again, offensive rebound, repositions, easy find for Raven Johnson. Te-Hina Paopao has 11 points, but Eric also 3 assists and 2 rebounds in 1 quarter of action.
Grad students' numbers in SEC play: 9 points a game, 32% from the three-point line. So that's brought down her overall numbers a little bit. Remember, last year she led Division I in three-point shooting at 47%. But she has played so many games, so many important games at Oregon and at South Carolina that you just feel like that's the kind of player like, oh, where's that switch I got to flip because we're getting to crunch time, February, March, April.
I take it that Te-Hina is the type of young woman that Don doesn't have to tell her. She knows. She's got so much experience. This is a 4-time all-conference selection, both Pac-12 as well as SEC. She knows what this team needs.
In and out from McGill. Fagan got bumped by Gassett, who's there to help her up after the contact. And that's going to be 2 on Gassett. First quarter, South Carolina shot 61%. Their largest lead was 23 points. They were +9 in rebounding margin. 18 paint points in the first quarter out of the 36.
Well, I got to tell you, what I like was 9 assists. This is a team that's only averaging 17 a game, so they came out sharing the ball, looking for high percentage looks.
Right from the very start, though, they got on the offensive glass, and that's been a big part of their success so far. Add another one to their total at 7 offensive rebounds. And Florida has a total of 4 rebounds.
Well, in true South Carolina fashion, 7 offensive rebounds, 8 second chance points. So they're not just attacking the glass, they're making you pay for not boxing them out.
Bree Hall works with the Edwards screen, leans in too strong. Rebound for Florida. Here's McGill. McGill so good with the handle, gets to the basket, flips it up for 2. I was looking forward, I gotta say, the McGill-Fulwiley vibe here tonight, because they both can do things with the basketball, with the handle, dribbling through traffic, finishing when they get close to the basket.
The playmakers, Eric.
Edwards.
And speaking of,
12 points for Joyce Edwards. 4 of 5 from the field, 4 for 4 from the free throw line. There's McGill, got into trouble, and here's Paopao. Edwards was the first one down the floor. Paopao feeds her, and Edwards gets 2 more. Paopao there defensively, batted out of bounds. Last touch by Fagan. A couple of great freshmen on the floor here tonight. Liv McGill for Florida.
And you see, at half court, she started sizing up where the defensive was, and she took it across to attack Edwards in transition. And then on the other end, Joyce Edwards was like, hey, let's talk about this freshman. I'm going to show you a little range as well.
Off the window for 2, Layla Reynolds.
That was a great find by Liv McGill, because she didn't wait until Reynolds was open. She saw her coming off the screen and led her perfectly for that bucket.
Ball is kicked. Chloe Kitts will come back into the game. And Joyce Edwards, nice round of applause for her. She heads to the bench. Can I ask a favor later?
Yes.
Can I ask you to handicap the field for Freshman of the Year in the SEC? Can you do that for me?
I will try.
I want to get your thoughts on that. Okay.
I'll go ahead and give you a little surprise. It's going to be competitive, in my opinion.
Oh, McGill Fulwiley going head-to-head right now. I got my popcorn out. Paopao. Reynolds tries to answer back the other way. Fulwiley was there defensively, and here comes Malaysia.
And this time it's Chloe Kitts rim running.
Drop it back to Hall. Hall for three. Batted out of bounds. Reynolds tried to save it, could not. It'll be South Carolina basketball.
Well, there's hot, and there's Te-Hina Paopao right now. She is 4 of 4 from 3. Fulwiley, knowing that she can't get all the way to the rim, finds Paopao running in transition for another uncontested 3.
12 assists on 17 field goals. The up-to-date tally now for South Carolina.
Nice
Good
rebound
by O'Neal. Saugus. Kyle will try it from outside. Not her spot, but there's O'Neal fighting inside, and Miara the and one.
Well, when Kyle comes out of the paint like that, that brings a big for South Carolina out. So O'Neal was one-on-one there against Kitts and just powers it up through the contact.
Well, when it comes to powering it up through contact, like daughter, like father. 3-point play for Miara, who went for 19 2 games ago against Arkansas, so she can get it going. Really good from outside the 3-point line in that game. She was 4 for 5. She heads to the bench here in the second quarter. And Maddie McDaniel, the freshman for South Carolina, on the floor now.
I mean, you've got 4 different players on the floor for South Carolina that could run point. That's a lot of ball IQ out there right now.
Fulwiley, no. Offensive rebound. Fagan was fouled.
The 9th offensive rebound for South Carolina already in this game.
As a team, of course, South Carolina's played a crazy hard schedule. They're +4 on the season in rebounding margin. But that number's gone up in SEC play, although they were -7 against Texas. Big part of that win for the Longhorns. Fagan makes the first. 4 men's hoops games on Saturday on the SEC Network. It all starts with a rematch. 5th-ranked Tennessee hosting Vandy, 1 Eastern time. Of course, Vandy won in Nashville, 76-75 in front of a sellout crowd at Memorial back on January 18th. So look for that one on Saturday. Kindred off for Warren. DeZecco can't get the 3. Paopao's got the rebound. Fagan, how many point guards did you say were on the floor right now? Because Sanaya Fagan says I'm the 5th.
I thought she was going to go coast to coast.
She should have. Fulwiley, no. And Kyle pulls it down for Florida.
Great job by Maddie McDaniel to ice the on-ball so Saugus can't use that to get her shot off.
Knocked away by Fulwiley, but not turned over. Florida has it inside of 6 to go in the first half. Warren's pull-up is short. Kyle battling Fagan. I think Kyle touched it last.
I think Timothy Green's about to get an assist.
Yes. So they changed the call. Dawn Staley going to give Timothy Green. I thought she was going to have a little fun. I mean, Dawn is riding high right now. The only thing that went wrong Sunday was the Texas game. Her beloved Eagles won.
Well, and she missed the first half. She did say
Did anything happen in the first half of that game?
Just 24 points.
If you're an Eagles fan, you missed probably the greatest 30 minutes in Eagles history, but she caught up pretty quickly. There's Johnson leading in for 2. Kindred broken up by Edwards. Edwards wants to show her handle. She'll go to the free throw line.
Eric, you mentioned earlier about how there have been great spurts by Florida this season, but one thing that keeps creeping its ugly head in losses are their turnovers. Already in this game now, they're up to 9 turnovers. We're not even at the halftime. And just like we just saw, that turnover is allowing other teams to get out in transition.
Yeah, and it's hurt them in some SEC games. I think back to the 29 turnovers against Ole Miss. You just talked about Ole Miss a few minutes ago, how they like to turn teams over, but it led to 42 points off of those 29 turnovers. Those are self-inflicted wounds that have really hurt the Gators in SEC play. You see the comparison, wins versus losses, and how the turnovers have impacted it.
And when you turn it over, it's multifaceted because, one, you're not scoring, but it's then allowing teams to get out and run and get easy scoring opportunities against you.
Fulwiley with the dish to Edwards, contested shot off the mark. McGill back to Warren. Inside of 5 to go here in the second quarter. Edwards with the rebound to McDaniel. McDaniel, Fulwiley. Fulwiley, that won't drop.
You sounded disappointed, like you just assumed it would.
Kick to the corner, picked up by Reynolds. McGill will launch and put down a 3. One thing we have seen about Florida, though, they will not stop playing. They have played hard throughout the season. But a big hill to climb here tonight.
It is a young team, but a team that believes in their head coach, plays hard. They'll go through their lulls, but they will respond.
That one won't drop. South Carolina's had at least a half dozen shots from quick recall and memory here that have looked like they were on the way down, but did not drop. O'Neal back on the floor. In fact, South Carolina is 4 for 14 from the field here in the second quarter.
Well, O'Neal had Maddie McDaniel on her. She should have posted up.
Warren knocks it down.
Warren's been really good in this first half. A couple of steals, allow them to get out in transition, a couple of buckets in the half court.
South Carolina has missed 7 of their last 8 field goal attempts. They've only outscored Florida by 1 here in this quarter. McDaniel needs help. Fulwiley on the turnaround. That one will drop. McGill. That won't go down. McGill's back behind the play. Numbers for South Carolina. Paopao Edwards. We've seen that before. 18 points in the first half for Joyce Edwards. 21 is her career best, came against Alabama. Corner 3 won't drop. O'Neal, good job on the offensive glass. Second chance for Florida. Gassett leans inside. That won't fall. And a timeout is going to be called by South Carolina. Kitts and Johnson and Hall have been waiting patiently at the scores table. I think Dawn wanted to get them into the game. South Carolina on the run. Joyce Edwards, big first half for Carolina.
Must be dead if you don't play with energy. So yes, Kelly, what you're seeing is on point. But you guys hit it on the head. This is a program that responds. And Dawn Staley reiterated today, it'll be good for us. We'll learn from it. And I said, when will you know if you learn from it? She said, April. We'll know in April.
She was quick with that answer, too. You see the game summary so far, 36 in the corner. The season high for points in the first half is 53. So they're there right now with 2:33 to go in the second quarter. That early season loss to UCLA, we asked what they learned from that game. What did you take away from what Dawn had to say about the lessons learned from a UCLA team that's, by the way, still #1 and taking on USC later on tonight?
Well, I said it. Dawn reaffirmed it. It was good for us. She said, Players just think it's that easy to repeat. And this is the one thing I will say to any fan out there. Winning is hard. Winning back-to-back national championships is beat hard because everybody's going to give you their best shot. So when we talk about the streaks that South Carolina's on, it's more of my tipping the hat to Dawn Staley and the rest of her coaching staff.
Three-pointer, Tessa Johnson.
And Eric, one other thing about the UCLA loss, when I asked Dawn about that back in December, she said we learned some things analytically. We knew we needed to play with greater tempo. We needed more ball reversal. We needed more paint points. And so I said, was there anything from this loss? And she said, Texas just took us out of everything we wanted to do.
That UCLA game as well, you know, that meant they would not have the third straight undefeated regular season, another three-pointer for South Carolina. So it wasn't going to come easy. You needed to say, look, this is a different season, a different team. What did they do after that loss to UCLA? That ended their 43-game winning streak. They went on a 32-0 run in a 30-point win over Iowa State.
This team knows how to respond. And the studio lady said it. There was no doubt they would. But something to watch for South Carolina, and this is why early they were on the glass. In their 2 losses this season, they were -7 in the rebounding battle. In the wins this year, +9.
Rebound by Gassett. 1 minute to go in the opening half. McGill can't get the three, batted out by Fagan, and McGill keeps it in play for Florida. Keep an eye on O'Neal. She's knocked down a couple of threes. Can they get her another look here? Reynolds on the drive, rejected by Fagan, and a foul is called on Sanaya Fagan.
I think Dawn Staley's having a little PTSD from Sunday because Fagan thought she had it clean. Dawn Staley immediately jumped up and felt like that was a clean block.
So 2 personals on Fagan. And the sophomore from Brandywine, Maryland, Layla Reynolds at the free throw line. I have a promo for you, Christy Thomas-Scuddy, because you were watching softball today. Tomorrow, you can continue watching the Shriners Children's Clearwater Softball Invitational. San Diego State, 11th ranked Alabama at noon Eastern time. You are a huge Tide fan, as everybody knows. Saturday morning, Liberty and 15th ranked Missouri. Sunday morning, Charlotte and 7th ranked Texas A&M. Softball season is here. That means spring is not far behind.
Hey, priorities, it's basketball season, but I'll sprinkle in a little softball till then. And I'm a huge Patrick Murphy fan. Let's be frank, Alabama softball coach.
The head coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Florida going to this matchup zone, just trying to mix some things up right now.
Forced into Johnson. She wasn't there. Here's McGill. McGill with the pass. Good challenge by McDaniel back on defense for South Carolina. Bree Hall sets up for a three. And another three for South Carolina. McGill launches, can't answer with a three of her own. The Gamecocks 8 of 12 on three-pointers in the first half, helping them to a season-best 62 points in the first half. We need to catch our breath here a little bit. That's why we've got Peter and Steffi and Kelly to take the baton at halftime. Night began, three-way tie for first. South Carolina, LSU, and Texas. South Carolina on top of Florida by 30 at the break. Eric Free, Christy Thomas-Scuddy back with you here courtside. In the loss to Texas on Sunday, South Carolina finished with 62 points. They put that on the board in the first half here tonight.
Well, they are home, and being she has found the stroke again. Already 14 points and 4 of 4 from 3. And she did it a couple different ways, the threes. She did it in transition, measuring up. She's relocated twice off offensive rebounds to knock them down. And she has also run the floor to get good looks in transition. And so South Carolina started hot from outside, and then Joyce Edwards came in and took it to the rack. The post player scored in a variety of ways, moving without the ball, moving with the ball, scoring off the bounce. Her defense allowed her to get out in transition, and she has put so much pressure on Florida because of her rim running. She has either been led to the rim, or then she has gotten immediately into post-up position.
18 points for Edwards, the most scored by any South Carolina player in a half this season. You know the story with South Carolina as you take a look at the game summary, that everyone plays, there's balance. The highest scoring total for any one player is 23 this year. Fagan gets the pass inside and 2 more points in the paint for South Carolina. That's 8 for Fagan.
And Eric, just to kind of summarize what you're saying, this is a very balanced South Carolina team. 7 players averaging 7 points or more a game.
Liv McGill led the way for Florida in the first half, 10 points. It was on 3 of 13 shooting, however. Tough shot for McGill. She was fouled, and a trip to the free throw line coming for the freshman.
One thing I'd like to see from Florida is, as much as they want to push and transition, is more pace in the half-court offense so that the weak side defense of South Carolina can't stand there and clog up dribble penetration lanes.
See the scoring totals, or the scoring leaders, more accurately, for the Gators, who average 73 points a game. This is a team that is offense first. That they can go, they want to run, they want to put points on the board, but they're running up against a South Carolina team that leads the SEC in field goal percentage defense. McGill off the mark, and Kitts has the rebound. Edwards with the 18. Paopao got things going in the first quarter. Finished with 14 in the first half. Fagan touched it last. Turnover, South Carolina. That's their 4th. Fagan with that bucket here in the second half, giving her 8.
And Eric, what's remarkable about the 18 points by Joyce Edwards is she did that in 10 minutes of action. That's pretty efficient.
It's another piece of this South Carolina team this year, and you take a look at the scoring numbers, how balanced it is. The minutes are balanced as well. Paopao leading the team at 25 minutes a game, and we've done some teams recently. I think of Kentucky the other night, really leaning into their starting 5. Everyone averaging 30 or more a game. Georgia Amor is averaging around 35 minutes a game.
Well, and this is a
beautiful pass. Fagan, Kitts couldn't get a drop.
This is a South Carolina team that, because of that balance, they also have versatility within skill sets, so they can beat you in a lot of different ways. They've got posts who can start the break themselves.
Hall to Raven Johnson. 5 points for Raven. Reynolds, defended by Johnson. Shea Kyle traveled. Turnover number 11 for Florida.
Eric, to my point earlier about moving with more pace for Florida, Kyle caught that ball, and there were 4 white jerseys with at least a foot in the paint because everyone else is kind of standing around. They've got to get more pace in the half-court offense. Another post-to-post on-ball screen.
Kids tracked it down. Bree Hall for 3, no. Hall had it batted back to her by Raven Johnson. Johnson will launch a 3. Nope. But she follows her miss. And another second chance opportunity. Chloe Kitts trying to show the range. Kyle got a hand on it, couldn't control it. Ball stays on this end. Johnson leads in, and eventually South Carolina scores again.
That is Raven Johnson's 3rd offensive rebound. The point guard for South Carolina, 3 O-boards already in this game.
3 of the 12 for South Carolina. Kyle with the putback for 2.
Kyle's brace came undone.
Yeah, one strap is not buckled up right now on that left knee brace. Of course, Kyle had her season ended last year after 9 games played with the knee injury. Four on the shot clock. Paopao takes a peek. Paopao shut off, and it's going to be a stop for Florida.
Kyle, when she scored on the other end, looked to the official asking for timeout, wanting to tighten the knee brace back up because South Carolina already had the ball. They couldn't stop play. Very fortunate that nothing happened on that possession for Florida.
That's one where, if Florida, they'd have to give a foul just to stop play if they recognized it. But they get Kyle out of the game after Florida gets a stop on defense.
Well, and Jariah Warren, it was a great rotation as Paopao put the ball on the floor.
Reynolds with the spin and the finish. Beautifully done by Layla Reynolds. Her first points of the second half. She's got 6.
And that's when Layla Reynolds is at her best, when she can get downhill off the bounce. Has that beautiful just turnaround jumper there around the rim.
And a 3-second violation. Kitts got caught in the lane.
Dawn Staley frustrated over on the sideline, and that's because this is a head coach that continues looking to build. She's not playing the scoreboard right now. She is playing, wanting her team to be sharp, getting ready for a pretty big game on Sunday, and to continue to improve going into April.
Dawn didn't have much to say to Chloe. Now maybe there's just a little bit of a message sent as Edwards comes on.
When I played, those were the worst, the nonverbals by the coach as you ran by to go to the bench.
That's going to be a foul on Raven Johnson. Now, when you coached, did you remember that you didn't like that as a player? And
no. I'll be honest, no.
you iced your players as a coach? The thing you didn't like as a player?
I wouldn't say iced, but nonverbals can send a better message sometimes than the verbal.
Were you?
Feedback.
I see. I've worked with you enough. You were an arms crossed head shaker. I could just see it right now.
Full disclosure, I was a stomper. War Hills, and I would stomp on it because I couldn't whistle.
You were a stomper? McGill.
And McGill is a shooter.
A volume shooter. She'll put up a ton. Hall kicks it to the corner. Paopao sets for 3. That won't drop. And a good rebound for Jariah Warren, averaging 5 boards a game. One of the most improved players in the SEC. Been held in check so far tonight.
Warren, as a freshman, 2 points a game, 2.5 as a sophomore, 4 points as a junior, up to 13 now in her last year.
McGill launches a 3. There's Gassett on the offensive glass. Second chance here for Florida. Kick back out. Salgas off the mark. Another rebound for McGill.
I didn't think that touched the rim, but they got a new shot clock.
I don't think Liv was going to wait around to see if the shot clock reset or not. Put back in by the Gators. They have outscored South Carolina here in this third quarter. It's an 8-0 run for Florida. Pass inside, caught by Edwards, finished by Edwards. 20 points now for the freshman. Spun up, won't drop. Gassett on the glass.
Well, Fagan forced Reynolds to alter that shot.
Here's Bree Hall. Hall to Paopao. Paopao to Fagan. Fagan turned around, couldn't believe she was that open, so said, I better shoot it.
Fagan smiled, saying, sorry, Paopao. I didn't realize it was so wide open. Eric, South Carolina already up to 20 assists in this game.
Reynolds, challenge shot, won't drop. Raven Johnson gets tangled up with McGill, and a foul is called. That'll get us to a media timeout with 3:29 to go in the third quarter. Well, it hasn't been perfect for South Carolina here in the third quarter, and no more silent treatment. Dawn talking to Chloe Kitts. I don't know if Chloe's hearing it, but you better listen to Dawn Staley. It's the Hall of Famer.
Well, Eric, you mentioned earlier that Kelly Rae Finley is expecting her first child. One aspect that she's already been motherly with her team is because she teaches every possession. She is so calm. She is so patient. She is so nurturing to these young players. So much is made about Kelly Rae Finley as the recruiter. I think she does such a great job of connecting with her players, meeting them where they are to teach them, to help them grow. An example is this transition game that we keep talking about for them. She really focused on that to make things easier for Liv McGill and the rest of the team, to let them be their true selves on the court.
How important is it to just stay positive as well with young players? You look at the scoreboard. You can look at the scoreboard. I think the first message would be don't look at the scoreboard. Look at the opportunity. You're playing in front of 16,000 people. Find something to build on and just keeping that positive message going.
And that is Kelly Rae Finley in a nutshell. She always knows how to motivate her team and positive motivation. Honestly, I've covered her as a head coach since she's been there. I don't know that I've ever seen her lose her cool with her team.
She's not a stomper.
She's not a stomper, and that's why Kelly Rae's more successful as a head coach.
Maddie McDaniel with a nice feed to Joyce Edwards, and then Kyle on the other end, and one. So Edwards now with 22 points, and that is a new career high for Joyce, over the 20-point mark for the third time in her young career. And then the veteran Kyle on the other end, a chance for a three-point play.
Well, for Joyce Edwards, her last two games have been single-digit performances. And I asked Dawn Staley about that today. I said, has Joyce hit the proverbial freshman wall? And she said, honestly, it's more about me and some of the decisions I've made in terms of usage and whatnot. And so Joyce Edwards is definitely saying to me, there is no freshman wall. I'm that good.
You see what's coming next for South Carolina, taking on UConn in a showdown on ABC, 1 o'clock on Sunday. We'll be taking a closer look at that matchup in the fourth quarter. Walker off the mark, and here is Florida back the other way with Reynolds. Reynolds, good strong take for two. Fulwiley to Johnson to Fulwiley. Deep two, won't drop. Fulwiley. I don't know if Dawn Staley loved that shot from Fulwiley, but she's going to love the recovery. The defense forcing the turnover. Now looking back for Edwards. Edwards on the handoff. Fulwiley drew contact. They play on. Tip back out to Reynolds.
Out by O'Neal there. I want to see Reynolds look to get to the rim more in transition. 36% of her points on the season are in transition, and she's really been bottled up for the most part here this evening.
Trying to post up on McDaniel. Skip pass. Saugus sets for three. And Edwards has the rebound. Up for McDaniel. McDaniel feeds Edwards, who got it back and put it in for two more. 24, that's the highest total for any South Carolina player this season. Joyce Edwards has done it tonight, and we still have time to go in the third quarter. Reynolds off the mark, and it'll be South Carolina basketball. Kids back on. Walker will check out for South Carolina. Reynolds will get a rest for Florida. Jariah Warren back on. McDaniel at the point. Missed about 3 weeks of time. Had a concussion. Really set her back. Almost to the point where feels like she's in the early part of her season instead of February right now, like there was a reset. Edwards just trying to show the complete game, but can't knock down the jumper.
Well, Maddie McDaniel missed the first couple of games of the season. Lower body issue. Came back, but Dawn Staley said even during that time, she was able to sit on the sideline and learn from Paopao and Raven Johnson. The unfortunate part, because of the concussion, is she wasn't at practice, so she really took steps back during her time away from the team and just now working her way back into playing with this group.
Kyle had to battle against Kitts and Edwards and won the battle. Fulwiley pushes it back the other way quickly. 5 seconds to go. Fulwiley better go. I don't know if she realizes it. I don't think she does. She's just going to launch from deep for 3. You think that was the plan?
Oh, absolutely.
In Malaysia, you trust if that's the case.
Absolutely.
In Edwards, South Carolina, trust 24 points. A career high for the freshman. Heading to the 4th.
Welcome back to Colonial Life, where Joyce Edwards is putting on a show. Already 24 points and only 16 minutes of action. She's been efficient, but she's also just played hard and made it look easy. Rim running, sealing in the half court, repositioning to present herself to her perimeter players. The full arsenal has been on display by Joyce Edwards. She's done it off the catch. She's done it off the bounce. She's done it running full speed in transition. She's done it off the glass. This freshman is putting on a show.
See the numbers, and we talked earlier about what we asked Dawn Staley about, the player who still has the farthest to go to reach her ceiling. Joyce Edwards is that player. Dawn took it a step further. She thinks that Joyce can be the best player in college basketball, which I thought was a pretty bold statement when you think about the talent of college basketball. But who am I to question Dawn Staley, because she's had a couple of the best players in college basketball here in Columbia. What do you think of that comment from her and what you've seen of Joyce Edwards' game?
I think she would know, because Dawn Staley, 10 of the last 11 years, has coached an All-American post player.
Yep.
And so I do believe, based on the body control, the body, her work ethic, I don't think there's any reason that we should dispute what Dawn is saying.
Saugus drains a 3. It was a good third quarter for Florida. They outscored South Carolina 16-14. They get the first points of the 4th quarter. And we talked about it with this Gators team. They will not stop fighting and working. That's been their MO this season.
And their second halves have been better, for the most part, during the SEC play, responding and making the necessary adjustments at halftime. Edwards with the spin, couldn't get it to drop. A rare miss for the freshman, who hustles back on defense. Kindred was fouled on the drive. Edwards frustrated with herself. Well, Saugus just missed leading Dzeko to the rim. If she could have put that on the money, that could have been an easy layup for Dzeko, but great job by Kindred with that secondary break. Foul on Edwards, her first, and here is Kindred. Another one to come. Reminder what's coming up on Saturday. Quadruple header in men's basketball, highlighted by Tennessee and Vanderbilt meeting for a second time this season. Vandy won the first matchup in Nashville. Second one to come, 1 o'clock Eastern time on Saturday. Eric, every time you read a men's basketball promo, all I can think about is what the SEC tournament will be like on the men's side. Almost as good as what the women's is going to be like. Well, just think about right now, national rankings, Alabama, Auburn, 1-2. They're meeting this weekend. Edwards spins inside. That won't drop. Fulwiley picks it up and flips it in for 2. First points of the second half for Fulwiley. I mean, anywhere you look, every sport in the SEC, it just seems like it just means more. Top 5. Well, you should write that down. Top 5 is just packed with SEC teams, and a foul is going to be called. As a matter of fact, you saw this week. Pregnant pause. Building up the drama. I'm just going to call this the ultimate flex by the SEC. We'll get to it. As we're waiting for it. We'll get to it. They're just building the drama, building the anticipation. But Saugus. I mean, Eric, men's basketball, all eyes are on the state of Alabama on Saturday, that Alabama-Auburn matchup. In gymnastics, you have 1 versus 2 Friday night. And there's a pretty big women's basketball game here, as well as 3 and 4 facing off on Sunday in LSU in Texas. Edwards, foul called. You were saying, Christy? So this is the graphic that the league sent out, and you can see men's basketball, the top 4 teams, women's basketball, 3 of the top 5, gymnastics, the top 3 teams, softball, 4 of the top 5, baseball, 4 of the top 5 teams. You mentioned the Alabama-Auburn men's showdown coming up.
Oklahoma and LSU in gymnastics, 1 versus 2. That's on ESPN2 on Friday night.
And are we going to talk about softball?
Yeah, go ahead. You're my softball expert.
Oh, no, I just enjoy the sport after basketball season, but it's loaded. It is like every sport in the SEC now. And we asked Dawn Staley about that tonight. She goes, it's just different this year. Top to bottom, this league is the best it's ever been.
Tough one for Reynolds to handle, and it'll be South Carolina basketball. South Carolina had a season high for points in the quarter with 36 in the first, had a 23-point lead. Dawn Staley's team was up 30 at halftime. It's been pretty even since the start of the second half between these two teams. As a matter of fact, it's +2 in scoring for Florida. But South Carolina has been in control since that dominating first quarter. And speaking of dominating, it's been a dominating performance for freshman Joyce Edwards. 28 points on 10 of 17 shooting.
Well, credit Chloe Kitts with that pass. Put it exactly where she needed to so Joyce Edwards could turn in scoring. Eric, the difference right now is South Carolina will run plays, but they're going to take what the defense gives you. What I see in Florida in this youth is they are running plays, but they're not taking what the defense gives them. They're not leading their teammates right to the rim when some of those opportunities have presented themselves.
5th rebound for Edwards. Kitts all alone underneath, and Warren comes in to give the foul to prevent the bucket.
Well, Joyce Edwards is working, but she sees that the defender's on high side, so she asked for the ball low side. Kitts sees that before Edwards even says it to put the ball right on the money for that lead pass in 2.
So you know how averages work, right? You pointed out she is averaging 7.5 points a game in the previous 2 games. So if you go 15 plus 28, that gives you 43. Now divide that by 3. And what's her scoring average now in the last 3 games? Are you trying to do the new math?
Yeah.
I think you're old enough to do the old math.
About 13, right?
14.3, which would be just above her season average. So things tend to work out, and they have worked out well for Joyce Edwards tonight. Although Kyle got on the other side, and McDaniel thought she had the block.
Maddie McDaniel's not happy with this call. Warren, great top pass. McDaniel comes across.
That's arm.
And unfortunately, freshman, you may get away with that later in your career, but you're not getting away with that now.
So Kyle at the free throw line. I think that's been great about the SEC on the men's side. Every game, every night, there's some big game. And that's the same for the women's side. We'll talk about South Carolina, UConn coming up on Sunday. We'll get you started noon Sunday here on the SEC Network. It's Ole Miss and Tennessee. Tennessee put 99 points on the board tonight in a 99-61 win over Auburn. Balanced scoring for that team. Jewel Spear leading the way with 16 points. She knocked down 5 threes.
So typical day at the office for Jewel Spear.
Edwards will check out. Little coaching before she sits down from Dawn Staley. 3-pointer too strong and picked up by Florida's Warren. Back for McGill. McGill has an opening. She'll take it.
Nice read by McGill. Didn't settle for the 3, but didn't over-penetrate there. Finished with that nice soft runner.
Fulwiley. Johnson, McDaniel, open 3. Walker on the inside. Count it, and the foul. That means everyone who has played has scored for South Carolina tonight, all 10.
And that rebound putback by Sakima Walker means that she has doubled her season average. Came in tonight averaging just 1 point a game. Great positioning for that O board and finishes.
She's another one coming off an injury, missed all of December. This is her 11th game of the season. Gives them some post depth.
And even more size down low.
Reynolds inside of 6 minutes to play.
Walker and Kyle are battling down low.
5 to shoot. Reynolds won't drop. Kyle, the putback, no. Kitts with the rebound. That's the 10th rebound for Chloe Kitts. She's the team leader, averaging 7.5 boards a game.
Nice
and on
pass.
the back cut, looking for the assist, and Fulwiley will head to the free throw line.
I think this is an underrated part of Chloe Kitts' game is just her passing ability, just off the bounce, doesn't gather, right off the bounce, flip of the wrist. Just unfortunate for Fulwiley couldn't finish. Mind you, she had an arm across her face, but still.
You see Chloe, unfortunately, we have to wait until next year for the Kitts sisters showdown. Kylie, the freshman for Florida, on the bench. There's Dad, Jason.
Both mom and dad are in attendance, but they don't sit together at games.
Here's McGill. McGill a little too strong. Kyle was fouled. We had a chance to talk to both Kitts sisters because, you know, I'm looking to stir the pot a little bit. What were those driveway showdowns like? What's the sibling rivalry? Kylie should be, if you go by past norms, in high school right now, but she graduated early to join Kelly Ray Finley's team to practice to get up to speed. And she is a big kid, standing next to her 6'4". She's got some good size, bigger than her sister.
Well, I said, what's the difference? She goes, I can hold on to my weight, unlike my sister, because that's one thing about Chloe Kitts' game. We've talked about her in the weight room, even on game days, trying to maintain her strength throughout a season. And Kylie was like, I don't have that issue. I did ask her, how would you defend your sister?
She had a quick answer. She was ready. She had thought about it.
I'd play off of her. I'm the better shooter.
So next year, it'll be the Kitts showdown when Florida and South Carolina plays. Right now, Kitts piling up the assists, the dish to Walker.
And I was told that Mom's already working on a sweatshirt, half South Carolina, half Florida,
I would hope
for
so.
next year.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. You've got to have the half South Carolina, half Florida. Whistle will get us to a timeout with 4:43 to go in the fourth quarter. South Carolina in control. It's South Carolina and Florida right now. Coming up next for South Carolina, 1 o'clock Sunday. Game day will get things started 2 hours before UConn and South Carolina.
That's a lot of hype. And it is going to be well worth it.
LSU, Texas, game 2 of the doubleheader, so it should be a great day of basketball as UConn comes to town for a matchup. Huskies are 7th ranked in the country. Last year, South Carolina won by 18. They've won the last 4 in the series. They never trailed last year. Paopao had a good game. 21 points, 5 threes. AZ Fudd trying to get on track. She was really good last night and went against St. John's for UConn. Went for a career high 34. How do you think the matchup's going to play out here on Sunday, Christy?
As we have seen with UConn with a short bench, there's just no margin of error. So Fudd as well as Beckers obviously have to come up big. I think it's going to come down to paint points, though.
What I think is going to be a great thing to watch in there, and they'll talk about it during game day, and Ryan Rebecca will have you covered when the game starts. The freshman matchup, Sarah Strong has had a great freshman season for Connecticut. We've talked about Joyce Edwards. Edwards tonight with 28 points. It's the most points ever for a South Carolina freshman in an SEC game, and the most for a freshman since 2009. So that Edwards Strong showdown with the freshmen should be great to watch as well.
And I'm still going to go back to, I think it's going to come down to the paint points. We know how South Carolina likes to play inside out. I will be really eager to see the UConn defensive game plan against the South Carolina. You wonder how much he might take, Gino that is, might take from that Texas game and try to apply it.
I think someone told Chloe Kitts that her sister said she can't make threes. And out of that timeout, Chloe Kitts tried to make a three. And her sister's smiling on the bench right now because it didn't drop down.
Well, I'll say this much in Chloe's defense. In her last 5 games, she's shooting 75% from 3. So big sister's got a little bit of something to say here.
Phil Fallon Reynolds. You know, we were talking about freshmen. I wanted to know and have you handicap the Freshman of the Year race in the SEC. How do you think this is going to unfold? These are your candidates right here.
Well, you've got the walking bucket in Michaela Blakes. Put 43 points up at Florida.
53.
53, excuse me.
Okay.
Sorry, Michaela. You deserve every one of those points. Joyce Edwards has just been so consistent for South Carolina. Liv McGill, you've seen the moments of brilliance here tonight. And then Chinu from Ole Miss. Those are my top 4 right now. I think depends on who's voting, but most people go for points, and I think that's where Blakes has the nod over even Edwards. I think coaches may look at it a little bit differently. I could see Joyce Edwards getting the nod from coaches.
Really?
Because I think what you look at when you're a coach, it's the all-around aspect of a game.
I think if Blake sustains this for a period of time, if she's a 20-point scorer from now till when the votes are turned in, and Vandy is in the mix, trying to be in the top half of the standings, they've lost their last 2 games trying to get back on track. I think it would be hard not to give it to Blakes because she's had that kind of impact on the team, but she hasn't been the only impact player. Camille Pierre's been outstanding for Vanderbilt as well.
And let me be clear. I love Michaela Blake's game. What she is doing as a freshman, the decisions that she's making, how she's scoring has been really fun to watch this season.
I think one of your points here as well is it's not just, it's got to be Blake's. It's like, well, look at the full body work that Edwards has done. Look at the impact McGill has had for Florida. Like, you can look at that, and I think those are 4 players who are going to be on the all-freshman team without question.
Well, and here's the bottom line. The true winners here are the fans, because we get 3 more years with these young ladies. The ceiling is just so high for all 4 of them.
Miriam Dowda on the floor for South Carolina, gets the rebound, second chance here.
Now, Eric, I do think 6th player of the year should be Edwards, without a doubt.
Fulwiley has to launch with 2 on the shot clock. Dowda fighting for it. And taken away by the Gators. I think she has helped her candidacy for that award quite well here tonight. 28 points for Joyce Edwards coming off the bench. 10 of 17 shooting, 8 for 8 from the free throw line. Do you have candidates for this? Oh my gosh, you came prepared today. I feel like I should do it like, you know, the Academy Award MC. And the nominees for 6th Woman of the Year in the SEC, Kaylin Gilbert has had some big buckets for LSU, game winners for the Tigers this year. And I know you were impressed by Jordan Lee. She's been an impact player for Texas on the defensive end as well.
I mean, I watched a lot of film on Jordan Lee, but to see Jordan Lee in person was even more. I was just wowed by her. Her upside is great because, I mean, 2-way player, great defensive, as we saw on Sunday against South Carolina, and also the best 3-point shooter for Texas. But I've also seen a lot of Joyce Edwards, and to me, she'd get my vote. I don't get a vote, but she'd get my vote.
Crowd is disappointed, of course. There was poultry on the line if there was back-to-back missed free throws.
Well, it's been the 3rd time that Florida's missed the first one, but then made the second one.
Adele Tack on the floor for South Carolina. That's a little short. And here comes Saugus. DeZecco wouldn't drop, and McDaniel's got it. McDaniel has got a lot of speed, but she needs someone to run with her. Dowda, entry pass, Tack. Tack is fouled by Gassett. So it's UConn and South Carolina coming up on Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern time. South Carolina will improve to 23-2 on the season. They'll be 11-1 in the SEC, and they'll take that step out of conference play. You talk about doing things for the good of the game. You know, Dawn Staley and Gino Auriemma, I think they agree. Yeah, you want to play these games to make your team better, to play deep into March and into April like they have. But also, I just think there's that feeling. They've got a lot in common. It's not just the love of the Eagles. I don't want to get into that. They can talk about the handshakes before the game coming up. But it's just how big the game is.
It is good for the game.
How big the game is outside of just the orbit of these teams. It is good for all of college basketball. It just raises the entire profile of the sport when you have a matchup like South Carolina and Connecticut in February.
2 hours of game day on ABC. That's exposure for women's basketball at the highest level. That's why I will always support coaches who schedule and play tough competition, because it only elevates your own team as well as our game as a whole.
Tack working hard with 2 minutes to go. Teammates love it. She's going to go to the free throw line. Another good thing about Sunday is that it's game one of a doubleheader, because then there's LSU and Texas, which should be really spicy and fun to watch. So Tack joins the scoring.
I know it's South Carolina, UConn, but what a day for the SEC on Sunday as well, to have 2 games on ABC.
So that's 11 different scores. If Dowda can get on the stat sheet, that would cover everybody who's played for South Carolina, everybody who's dressed. Of course, Ashlyn Watkins out for the rest of the season after knee surgery. So we'll have a chance here to get Dowda involved with 1:47 to go. It would appear South Carolina is going to come up just short of their season high, although there's still time. 101 points were scored against Oklahoma.
Well, I was waiting for the assist record to drop tonight. Their high on the season's been 26. Right now, they're on 23.
McDaniel with the drive and the finish.
Can you tell the upperclassmen love Maddie McDaniel? They all stood up, holding the and one up there for her.
Kyle gets it to roll over the rim and in. Chance for a three-point play for Shea Kyle.
And Kyle's had a good second half. Only 2 points in the first half. Now up to 13 in this game.
Chance to add to it at the free throw line. McGill with 15 to lead Florida in scoring. Next up for the Gators, they'll host Mississippi State on Sunday. Then they'll be at Texas A&M. Their final 3 games of the regular season: Tennessee, Oklahoma, Texas.
Eric, we've done enough SEC games this year to where we feel like we say something like that about ranked opponent, ranked opponent, ranked opponent every night when we're talking about someone's upcoming schedule.
Davian Mandudi Ambagaga with the basket for Florida. And on the other end, South Carolina adds to their total. Maybe they will get to 101 tonight. Chance for a three-point play.
The ability to create one-on-one. Mylasia Fulwiley has it in spades. She's got explosiveness. She's got shiftiness with the body as well as the ball.
.101 it is for a second time this season. Final minute of play. 13 points for Fulwiley. And a timeout being called here by Florida to make a substitution, but that is a media timeout. And we'll take it as well with 54.3 to go here in Columbia. Final minute of play here for South Carolina and Florida. This will extend an impressive streak for South Carolina. It means they'll go 204 games without a losing streak. They haven't had back-to-back losses since 2019. How hard is that to do?
It is very hard, because sometimes when players are disappointed, you can't get them refocused, and it just goes back to the brilliance of Don Staley as a head coach.
Now, the all-time record is one of the great records in all of sports that I think goes underappreciated. Connecticut from 1993 to 2023. They went 30 years without back-to-back losses, 1,083 games. Their streak ended when they lost to South Carolina and Marquette in back-to-back games. That is insane. The longest active streak in Division I belongs to the Gamecocks. And next up for South Carolina will be Connecticut, a top 10 showdown here on ABC on Sunday afternoon. A reach by Tack before this game ends. 13.1 to go.
And Eric, I just have to bring this up. 60 bench points for South Carolina here this evening.
That will raise their Division I best average. It was 41 points a game coming in.
First in the country.
Yes. So that average will head up.
And this will be the 15th game this season where the bench has outscored the starters for South Carolina.
This is game one of our doubleheader. After us, Mississippi State and Vanderbilt. Studio will keep you company. Recap what's happened already tonight. We mentioned the Tennessee win. Texas and Kentucky are playing in the fourth quarter. This game dominated by South Carolina. They lead wire to wire. They put 101 on the board. 101-63 the final.
I think if anyone had any questions, how would South Carolina respond? They answered it in full. It was a full team effort, and they did it from outside. They did it from inside. The veterans showed up. The freshmen showed up.
The 71-game winning streak at home will be put on the line Sunday afternoon against UConn. South Carolina wins it. Joyce Edwards with a career-high 28 points. You'll hear from her from the studio in just a minute. So long from now from CLA.
And Joyce Edwards joining us right now. Joyce, 28 points, the most of a South Carolina player in a while since Zia Cook had that a couple of years ago. How did the game unfold for you tonight?
You know, just running in transition. I got some easy baskets running early, and I just capitalized on that. My teammates gave me the ball, and I just executed.
Hey, Joyce, great game today. Look, I don't want to talk about the past, but I want you to take me back to that locker room when you guys lost to Texas in the past two games. How did Dawn Staley challenge you guys to get ready for this game?
Yeah, toughness. Toughness was the big word coming out of the locker room. She felt like Texas out-toughed us. And honestly, we just came out and we out-toughed Florida. We executed.
As the rookie out there with this team, what have you learned and what what have you learned from your teammates this year?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I'm a rookie, so I'm just learning a lot from like Sanaya, Chloe, Ashlyn, all of them who've been playing for so long. But it's really just being aggressive, practicing against them. I mean, I get experience and practice every day going against like the best players in the country, in my opinion. So yeah.
So tell me how you think your game is growing, because I feel like I'm seeing so much versatility from you, especially today's game.
Yeah, I mean, I just go out there and do what the defense gives me. I'm trying not to overthink anything and just go out there and play.
Hey, Joyce, you had a unique opportunity watching A'ja Wilson get her jersey retired. Somebody who stayed in her state to play for Dawn Staley. You chose South Carolina. I just am curious, what was your takeaway from that experience and also staying and playing for the Gamecocks?
Well, I mean, yeah, we saw her jersey retired, but literally she was coming, a couple of days before in practice. We was asking her questions. We was just absorbing all her knowledge and watching her grow up. I mean, I know I could do it because of her. She paved the way for me. I feel like it was a little bit of a full circle moment for her too, just because she's watching us play and she like literally built the foundation for us. So I'm proud of her.
Joyce, very well said there. Of course, you say you're a rookie. You're not playing like one, right? As a freshman. This is a big game coming up against UConn. What's the vibes around when you think about that program and what's ahead of y'all coming up on Sunday?
Yeah, we know it's going to be a big matchup. We know they're tough. We know we're going to have to go out there, execute. We're just going to practice tomorrow, locking in order to execute, get the game plan, and hopefully we get the win.
A fantastic game, 101-63. Congratulations on the victory. Go celebrate with the teammates, all right?
All right, thank you.